Good afternoon and welcome to this edition of DMS 3000 News. It is episode 103 on this Monday, January 15th, 2024. And I am your host with the most here today from the weekend, Jason DeCanio. Thank you very much. Hope you had a fantastic weekend and a happy Martin Luther King Day to you as well. We are going to be looking at this particular day as MLK Day because Martin Luther King Jr. gave us all of those fantastic speeches that pretty much put us in a position to make everybody free from the what they call, free from the oppression, freedom to express yourself, civil rights for everybody, regardless of creed, color, race, religion. It didn't matter at any moment. He stood for that. And unfortunately, he got assassinated for it because there were people out there that just didn't like him in general and didn't like what he had to say. But he paid the price for your freedom by speaking out there like a disciple of Jesus. And it's unfortunate that today we have to deal with people who just don't like what we have to say. And I'll have something about that in the important information. Also, too, today we're going to share screen as well. Here, I got the NPR stuff ready to go. We'll look at that in a little bit. Share that up for you. But first, let me tell you what our articles are going to be for today. We have how Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday became a federal holiday, right? And then we're going to have the 11 facts about the civil rights movement that aren't true. Keep that in mind as well. And why desegregation didn't put an end to racism in America. So we're going to look at all of that. Those three articles today on this edition, episode 103 of DMS 3000 News. Of course, we've got the headlines, sports, and other important information. News of the Weird is also today. Of course, what day is today? It's Martin Luther King Day, but it might also be something of a special holiday food-wise. We also have our motivation of the day as well. Lots of good stuff coming up. And, of course, we have our ticker. There it is. And we have new episodes of Chillin' 3000 Hangouts with David St. Dennis every Friday at 8 o'clock. You want to talk football? Our next episode comes up this Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. And I'll tell you what, it's going to be a doozy because I have some very, very, very harsh words for all of those football fans out there that continually mock. And I'm not very happy with not just with the loss that the Cowboys encountered. I'm not happy with the fans in general because I'll tell you what, you all guys are pretty much bashing and crashing. I don't go post, and I'll talk about that in a minute here. Also, too, we have Wipe Those Tears Wednesday nights at 9 o'clock. Join me in the gang. We're going to be doing episode 17, continuing our look at the NES games with the letter F. That's going to start this 9 o'clock this Wednesday with Mark Leota, Gianni Pizzi, and Brandon Bogard, and myself looking at the F games of NES. Should be good. And also, too, I'll have a special other important information as well. I'll share that with you in just a little bit. But right now, we got to go to the headlines and the sports and other important information. So let's go ahead and do that right now. Get ourselves going here. It is Iowa caucus today. Yep, and here's what you need to know. Republicans in Iowa convened today on a potentially record-breaking chilly night that could affect turnout to commence the 2024 presidential contest. Follow NPR for updates, analysis, and results. Yes. Snow falls on the U.S. from Louisiana to Michigan with more to come. It's not all one mega storm. While Arctic cold is permeating from the north, the snowfall is coming from a variety of systems. Question and A, author Muhammad Zaman on why healthcare is an impossible dream for unpersons. In his new book, We Wait for a Miracle, Zaman tells how about the struggle for health care by forcibly displaced people, refugees, the internally displaced, and the stateless. Wow. The Up First briefing, Iowa caucuses and MLK Day. Yes, Iowa Republicans kick off the 2024 election season, and NPR's reading and listening picks to honor Martin Luther King Jr.'s legacy. Service helps on MLK Day, but some say it's not enough. United States groups will gather for community service projects to honor Martin Luther King Jr., but some say more is needed. Iowa Republicans will use an app to transmit caucus results. Sound familiar? The state Republican Party is extremely confident the system will work Monday, but election experts can't help but notice parallels to Iowa Democrats' disastrous technology in 2020. Shipping container buildings may be cool, but they're not always green. Shipping containers may seem like a sustainable construction material, but are they actually eco-friendly? Many people don't want a heavily used container, and the energy bills are through the roof. An old relative of the T-Rex sparks new questions about the dinosaur's origins. Researchers say they've identified the oldest known Tyrannosaurus, shaking up the ongoing debate over how and when the dinosaurs arrived in North America. Here are the 2024 Iowa Republican caucus results. As Republicans are holding their traditional caucuses on January 15th, and former President Donald Trump has been the clear leader in Iowa polling. View the live results. To get fresh vegetables to people who need them, one city puts its soda tax to work. In Boulder, Colorado, officials realized there were many people who needed access to fruits and vegetables, but didn't qualify for federal food assistance. The Buffalo Bills are hiring fans to shovel snow before its game against the Steelers. The Bills versus Steelers game was postponed to inclement weather in Buffalo, and the Bills are offering people $20 an hour to help clear the stadium of snow before Monday night's game, or Monday's afternoon's game, which is going on right now. Arevalo sworn in as Guatemala's president despite efforts to derail his inauguration. Bernardo Arevalo was sworn in as Guatemala's president on Monday, minutes after midnight, despite months of efforts to derail his inauguration and rising tensions right up until the transfer of power. A hot air balloon accident in Arizona leaves 4 people dead and 1 critically injured. Authorities say they do not know the cause of the hot air balloon accident at the time. The National Transportation Safety Board and Federal Aviation Administration are investigating. Nicaragua frees a jailed Catholic bishop and 18 priests, hands them to the Vatican. Bishop Rolando Alvarez and the other clergy were jailed more than a year ago, in most cases as part of a crackdown on the opposition and Catholic Church by President Daniel Ortega. Top congressional leaders prepare for votes on a stopgap spending bill. Top leaders in the House and Senate agreed this weekend on a bill that would extend government funding in 2 tiers, with some programs expiring on March 1st, while others would be extended to March 8th. The Honeymooners actor Joyce Randolph dies at 99. Yes, the veteran stage and television actor's role as the savvy Trixie Norton on The Honeymooners provided the perfect foil to her dim-witted TV husband, Ed Norton, played by Art Carney. Sad passing. She missed the century mark by such months. It's crazy. It's amazing. And I have a little bit to say about how these actors and actresses getting to 99 and not getting over the hump to get it over to 100. So far, it's a grand decade for billionaires, says new report. As for the masses, well, as the World Economic Forum kicks off in Davos, the charity Oxfam has issued its annual report on wealth, poverty, and inequality. It makes some bold assertions, but there are skeptics. 2 Virginia prison supervisors named in death of a disabled inmate in amended suit. The new amended lawsuit now includes Captain Travis S. Poston and now former Marion Warden Jeffrey Artrip as defendants, along with 5 previously named prison officers. The Iowa principal who protected students during a high school shooting has died. Dan Marburger was critically injured during the January 4th attack at Perry High School. The school superintendent said he was a hero who intervened with the teenage gunman so students could escape. Peregrine Moonlander heads back toward Earth and should burn up in the atmosphere. The mission was to be the first time an American company sent a spacecraft to the moon and the first time the U.S. returned to the lunar surface in more than 50 years. Volcano erupts in Iceland, sending lava flowing toward a nearby town. A volcano in southwestern Iceland erupted for the second time in less than a month, sending lava snaking toward a nearby community and setting at least 1 home on fire. And finally, brutal cold adds another layer to Republicans' final push in Iowa. As the Republican presidential hopefuls have made their closing arguments in Iowa, they've also had to make another argument to convince voters to come out today in dangerously cold temperatures. And there you have it, folks. The headlines for today, January 15th, 2024. Let's go to the NBA and see what's going on over there. We have, I think, some games that are going on right now, but let's take a look at the weekend, especially on Friday night. This was, Friday, January 12th. Let's look at Friday night. The 76ers beat the Kings 112-93. It was the Hawks over the Pacers 126-108. Rockets continue to beat the Pistons, and the Pistons continue to lose. They came very close to defeating the Rockets, but they come up short by 2, 112-110. Heat over the Magic 99-96. It was the Clippers over the Grizzlies 128-119. Warriors over the Bulls 140-131, and the Spurs beat the Hornets 135-99. It was the Timberwolves over the Trailblazers 116-93. Jazz over the Raptors 145-113, and the Nuggets take care of the Pelicans 125-113. Saturday's game, Celtics beat the Rockets 145-113. Wizards over the Hawks 127-99. Knicks over the Grizzlies 106-94. It was the Bucks over the Warriors 129-118. Magic lose to the Thunder 112-100. The Pelicans over the Mavericks 118-108. It was the Bulls over the Spurs 122-116. And the Lakers lose to the Jazz in Utah 132-125. Yesterday, on Sunday, Nuggets beat the Pacers 117-109. Heat over the Hornets 104-87. Bucks in overtime. Wow, they win again, beating the Kings 143-142. Timberwolves over the Clippers 109-105, and the Suns over the Trailblazers 127-116. Today we have some finals and some games going on right now. Right now it's a final in Philly. 76ers over the Rockets 124-115. In the third quarter, with 6:04 left, the Pelicans have a 2-point lead over the Mavericks, 78-76. At halftime, the Wizards have a 1-point loss. They're losing to the Pistons, 63-62. The Knicks over the Magic right now at halftime, 52-50. Second quarter, Hawks are dominating the Spurs, 51-23. Tonight's games also have the Warriors at the Grizzlies at 6. And at 7, the Bulls at the Cavaliers. Heat at Nets at 7:30. The Celtics at the Raptors in Toronto at 7:30. At 9 o'clock, the Jazz will tip off with the Pacers in Utah. And the Thunder will go to the Staples Center to visit the LA Lakers at 10:30 tonight. Lots going on there. Now let's go to the NHL. A lot of sports stuff today here. Well, because we weren't here Friday. And unfortunately, we had to cover a lot. So we're going to look at Friday the 12th. Yeah, right here. Okay. Whoops. Okay, Friday the 12th. Okay. Let's see. Predators over the Stars 6-3. In overtime, the Flyers beat the Wild 4-3. Yesterday, on Saturday, actually, Capitals over the Rangers 3-2. Canucks beat the Sabres 1-0. It was the Senators 5, Sharks 4. Devils beat the Panthers 4-1. In OT, the Oilers beat the Canadiens 2-1. It was the Flyers 2, and they shut out the Jets 2-0. Kraken over the Blue Jackets 7-4. Red Wings over the Kings 5-3. Lightning over the Ducks 5-1. In OT, the Hurricanes edged the Penguins 3-2. Avalanche 5, Maple Leafs 3. Coyotes shut out the Wild 6-0. Boston over the Blues in OT 4-3 in St. Louis, mind you. It was the Predators over the Islanders 3-1. Stars over the Blackhawks 3-1. Flames beat the Golden Knights 3-1. And yesterday, Sunday, the Capitals lose to the Rangers 2-1. Red Wings 4, Maple Leafs 2. Right now, we've got games going on. It was a final today in Buffalo as the Sabres beat the Sharks, shut them out 3-0. In OT, the Ducks beat the Panthers 5-4. In a shootout, the Blue Jackets over the Canucks 4-3. The Penguins beat the Kraken, shut them out 3-0. And the Bruins shut out the Devils 3-0 as well. That was the final. End of the first. Right now, the Kings have a 1-0 lead over the Hurricanes. Predators at the Golden Knights at 6 o'clock in Vegas. The Islanders will go to Minnesota to host the Wild. Will face off against the Wild in Minnesota at 6. Avalanche at the Canadiens at 7. And the Flyers and the Blues in St. Louis at 8 o'clock tonight. NHL or NFL. This is where it gets really heated, folks. I'm telling you. I looked at these games yesterday. I watched both of them. And right now, the wild card is pretty much set with the exception of going on right now. The Steelers and the Bills will play at 4:30 today in about 12 minutes. And then the Eagles and Bucks at 8:15 tonight. Texans over the Browns 45-14. They advanced. Chiefs shut down the Dolphins 26-7. Packers in an upset 48-32 over the Cowboys, and the Rams get their heinies whipped by the Lions by 1. The Lions haven't won a playoff game since 1991. That's a 32-year span. They're going on to the next round 24-23. So it looks like so far right now, the divisional round is set up where the Packers have to go up against the 49ers. The Texans will face the winner of the next game. Not sure who they probably are going to go up either again. Yeah, the Texans will either face the Steelers or the Bills, the winner of tonight's game. And the Lions are going to face either the Eagles or the Bucks. Yep, in that game. So we'll see what happens. It could go either way right now. See what happens with that. And it's going to be interesting to see what's going to be facing up there. If you want to know what's going on also, let's talk football, 7:30 this Wednesday night. I have some important information for you. So that's so far my sports for you today. Here's my important information for you. First of all, it's good news here. I'm on week 8 right now of Weight Watchers, and at this point in time, after 7 weeks, I have now officially lost 22 pounds total. That means now I officially weigh 311 pounds, and I'm on week 8 and starting up there, and I feel great, folks. And I'm real close to the 30-pound mark. I got 128 pounds. I still got to lose, though. It's still a long ways to go, but I thank you for the kind words, the continued support. And, the encouragement, hold me accountable, too. I haven't gained anything back yet, but you never know. Sometimes you can gain a pound here and there, but I'm really trying my best to just continue to drop a few pounds, even if it's just 1 pound a week. I'm looking at that. That's healthy. You want to drop too much, but that's what it's sometimes you got to look at it. But 22 pounds down after 7 weeks, that's pretty darn good. All right, that was one of the important information. The other important information I have for you is tonight, of course, we'll be recording on Discord if you'd like to be a contestant on any of the game shows. We're still looking for a Blockbusters contestant. I think we have one already, but we're looking for another one. So drop David St. Dennis a line if you'd like to be a contestant on the shows tonight. We'll be there in the game room starting at 7 for Tic-Tac-Toe, Joker's Wild, and Blockbusters. Okay? Other things to talk about here. Like I said, folks, I am just livid right now. The disgusting thing about the games that went down for me personally, because I am a Cowboys fan, and I know Victor out there, I know you're going to ram my head Wednesday because of, the fact that you can't stand the Cowboys. Think about this. Compared to what the Dolphins didn't do, all right, the Cowboys at least scored 32 points, okay? And we really were, the Packers just wanted it more, okay? And then the disgusting things I see on Facebook, posting all this stuff about how everybody hates the Cowboys. Look, guys, you want to post crap like that, that's how you make enemies. I'm so sick and tired of looking at that stuff. Packers, you guys got damn lucky as far as I'm concerned. You guys got to go up against San Francisco next week. I would not take San Francisco lightly. I wouldn't take them lightly. They weren't the number one team for nothing, okay? So here's to all those Packers fans. If your team loses this game against San Francisco, it was all for naught, okay? That's inconsistently playing, all right? Win one, lose one, win one. No. You guys want to go all the way with your team? Show us that you can go all the way, all right? Do us a favor and beat the 49ers. Then I may have some respect for you. But as far as I'm concerned, if you lose next week's game, it was all for naught. As far as I'm concerned. We got, I think I just got a message from him about Blockbusters Unaccepted. Thank you, Emo. We'll see you tonight for a good game of Blockbusters for you. Okay, but getting back to what I was saying before, look at it this way, folks. I'll have more on my report Wednesday night. So if you really want to get my take on all of the games, that's fine. That's totally fine. One thing I'm not going to do is I'm not going to chew Victor out on the show, but I know he's going to want to humiliate me any way he possibly can. Do yourself a favor. Don't do it. Okay? I'm not attacking you. It has nothing to do with you. The loss to the Cowboys, the Cowboys loss has nothing to do with that. Okay? You want to celebrate it? Great. You have all this time. You come to the show Wednesday night, you report what we're talking about here, and that's it. And even if, let me put it this way, even if the Cowboys would have won this game, I still would have said, okay, yeah, we got through one game. The real celebration, whoever wins the Super Bowl. That's why coaches don't really celebrate these playoff wins. Yes, they're great. It was terrible that the Cowboys lost. You'll get them next year. What can you do? And I've learned, never underestimate your opponent, because at this point, Cowboys, they had everything to gain. The Packers thought, we're just going to go in there and do our job. And they did, But here's the thing that I'm going to stress to you Packers fans. Don't go crying when the 49ers put up 50-plus points like they did to everybody else. Yes, both games are going to be high scoring. I mean, if you played the over and under on these games, a lot of these games are over 50 points combined. So it's going to be high scoring, except for, of course, the Dolphins. I don't know what happened with that. But if you want to look at, you want to tune in to see some more critiques about all of this, check out Let's Talk Football, 7:30 this Wednesday night. And me and Victor and Jester and David will be there. I hope David will be there as well. I'm not sure, but if he is, great. If not, then it'll just be the three of us. But at that point, then Victor can go on and say, oh, I'm finally rid. Yeah, but the Cowboys will be back next year, so you cannot get rid of the Cowboys unless you completely destroy the entire team and sell them off. It's the only way you're going to get rid of the Cowboys. Okay? At that point. All right, I talked more than that. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we've got News of the Weird real quick. Of course, our What Day is Today, and then we'll get on with the articles. All of this and more on DMS 3000 News when we come back right after this.
Holy icicles!
In their daily pursuit of justice, our superhero characters do battle with the world's most evil villains. Where will the next evil villain come from? Maybe you will create them in Post Superheroes Create a Villain Contest.
Grand prize. 9 kids win a 1-week trip to Hollywood. They'll have breakfast with these superheroes.
And the villain they've created.
Second prize, 1,000 win bicycles. Millions will enter, and everyone who does gets Superheroes Puffy stickers.
Details on specially marked boxes of Alphabet, Super Sugar Crisp, Honeycomb, and Pebble cereals. You can draw and paint your villain in the picture provided. 3 different pictures.
Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman and Robin.
3 grand prizes per picture.
The most original villains win.
Holy Hollywood!
Post Superheroes Create a Villain Contest. Details on specially marked boxes of Alphabet, Super Sugar Crisp, Honeycomb, and Pebble cereals.
And it drops, and then there's not much going to stop 'em. It's the 6x6 High Riser Power Cruiser. You can play with it alone or with other high risers like the Atlas, each sold separately. It's a complete action station with a pivoting boom and working searchlight. And six-wheel drive and independent suspension make it almost unstoppable. It's rockin', let it roll, and almost no place it's not going. 2 AA batteries not included. The 6x6 High Riser Power Cruiser and Atlas, each sold separately. From Ideal.
For your NES, now you and the games are one. The Power Glove, everything else is child's play.
You Decepticons can stand up to the Dinobots, but the Predacons can. The Predacons not only transform into robots, but into one gigantic robot. Predacons! Transformers! More than meets the eye.
Transform the Predacons!
Transformers!
It's the Dinobots! Can't stop Predaking!
The Transformers, each sold separately from Hasbro.
I'm to put the tail on the donkey!
Wrong, Mom.
It's time for the Pringles jingle. Huh? Once you taste the flavor, then you get the fever, then you got the fever for the flavor of a Pringles. Once you taste the fluffer,
You need help.
Once you taste the flavor, then you get the fever. Then you got the fever for the flavor of a Pringles.
Once you taste the flavor, it's the deep fried taste. Then you get the fever. It's the crispy crunch. Then you got the fever for the flavor of a Pringles.
Wait till you taste Pringles now.
Out by Nintendo. 11 world-class contenders. Take them down with your controllers, beat them all, and you've got a shot at Tyson's title. But for that, you've got to beat Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson's Punch-Out from Nintendo. Now you're playing with...
I've never seen those fine puppies before. Are they new? And they're so lonely. Let's rescue them.
Pound puppies each sold separately.
You're so huggable.
They're very playful.
They catch sparks.
And for $3.50 more, you can send for a name tag, stickers, and order certificates.
Now you're really one of the family.
Pound puppy, you're my one and only puppy love.
2 new puppies from the Pound Puppies collection, each sold separately from Tonka.
Well, it's now time for News of the Weird. That's right, by the editors at Andrews McMeel Syndication for the week of January 12th, 2024. They're at it again, these guys, and they're ready. And the title of this headline story, the lead story, is The Unconventional Weaponry. The Laconia, New Hampshire Daily Sun reported on January 5th that police were called to the Market Basket supermarket in Tilton the day before after a fruity fracas broke out in the produce section. Social media posts indicated that a watermelon had been used in an assault, and Sergeant Andrew Salmon of the Tilton Police Department confirmed that his department is investigating. Salmon said one person went to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries from being struck by a produce item. A worker who answered the phone at the Market Basket said, "We have been instructed not to say anything." King, a rescue dog at the Lost Hour Home Pet Rescue in Tempe, Arizona, enjoyed a brief reign among his shelter buddies, Fox 10 TV reported on January 11th. Sometime around midnight, King managed to break out of his kennel at the shelter and busted out several other dogs as well. He also found a stash of food and enjoyed a little feast. In the meantime, alarms were triggered. Jody Polanski, the shelter's founder, looked at video from the scene and saw the mess. The police actually came because he set the alarm off, Polanski said. And the unnamed responding officer cleaned up after King's free-for-all and got the dog settled back in bed. I was just like, wow, amazing, man, that he did that. He did that, Polanski said. The rescue's website indicates that King is no longer looking for a home. 75-year-old Rodney Holbrook, he's a retired postman from Wales, had been noticing for a couple of months that small messes in his shed were being mysteriously tidied overnight, the BBC reported. So he set up a camera and caught a little mouse, picking up pegs, corks, nuts, bolts, and bird food. Holbrook aptly named the rodent Welsh Tidy Mouse. 99 times out of 100, the mouse will tidy up through the night, Holbrook said. I don't bother to tidy up now. I leave things out of the box and they put it back in its place by morning. I've added different things to the desk to see if they can lift it, he said. Lulu Lotus of Mississauga, Ontario, Canada, has earned a Guinness World Record for an impressive, if dubious, skill. She blew a 44.1 decibel whistle through her nose. United Press International reported on January 9th that Lotus visited Aeracoustics Engineering Ltd. To have her whistle measured in a special room. She said her 5-year-old son has recently discovered he, too, has a nose whistling ability. It would be a dream come true if he beat my record one day. The story about the Alaska Airlines plane that lost a panel while flying at 16,000 feet is all over the news. But it's the little human interest stories that really capture us. When the panel flew off and the hull gaped open midair on January 5th, someone's iPhone got sucked out and landed on a roadside in Washington State, Yahoo News reported. Sean Bates, who found the phone, posted a photo on X showing the phone's intact screen and a battery life of 44% remaining. Pretty clean, no scratches on it, sitting under a bush, he posted. Jennifer Homendy of the NTSB said all found phones would be returned to their owners. Kathleen Murray of Sandford, Tasmania, credits Bandicoots for helping her win the first ever World's Ugliest Lawn competition. The Guardian reported on January 11th. The marsupials, Murray said, have actually liberated me from ever having to mow it again. I'm all for guilt-free weekends, especially since my ex-husband left with the lawnmower back in 2016. Well, there you go. Now you got somebody to do the lawn for you. That must have been a good-looking Toro. The contest began at Gotland, Sweden's ugliest lawn, which was conceived to encourage water-saving and environmentally friendly gardening in 2022. All of the lawns were hideous and well worthy of winning, but the winning entry was really, really bad, said Gotland's Mimi Gibson. It brings me a lot of joy to see all the little creatures who now feel safe to come out during the day in my yard. What's in a name or a word? Wayne State University in Michigan has announced its 15th annual list of 10 long-lost words that should be resurrected. United Press International reported on January 10th. The Word Warriors program has identified Blatherskit, nonsense, Kerglaff, the shock felt upon diving into cold water, Raw Gabbit, a person who speaks confidently but ignorantly, and Pawky, having a cynical sense of humor, among others. Let's get together and twankle during our coffee clutch. Oh, my God. On January 8th, as an Air Canada flight prepared to leave Toronto for Dubai, a passenger who had just boarded opened a cabin door and stepped out, falling about 20 feet to the ground. CTV News reported. The passenger was injured and emergency services were called, the airline said, and the flight was delayed but eventually took off. There was no explanation for why the person jumped out. Oh! A 32-year-old woman who had been arrested for assault in Boone, North Carolina, took her aggression out on the police car's back seat on January 2nd, the Charlotte Observer reported. Boone Police Sergeant Dennis O'Neill said a substantial amount of padding had been chewed away, adding up to $650 in damages. The department's Facebook post suggested they may need to invest in Kevlar seat covers. Authorities were still deciding whether to charge her in connection with the car's damages. Ooh! The Beanmonger, a coffee shop in Indianapolis, Indiana, next to a wedding venue site, was the site of a pop-up marriage on December 31st, with no prior notice that the happy couple and their guests were planning to converge, the New York Post reported. 20 to 30 people, including an officiant, photographer, and guests, crowded into the small store where they treated the unsuspecting workers as if they were hired staff. They were asking us to take coats, purses, and watch personal items as if they had rented us out, one person said. The wedding party blocked the entrance to other patrons, and when a barista asked them to move, the photographer replied, "No, wait at least 5 minutes." The story typically charges $500 for private events, which they had requested from the bride, but she deemed the amount unreasonable. Ooh. Roderick Jackson of Wascom, Texas, is suing Walmart for $100 million or unlimited free lifetime shopping at any location in relation to a vague incident from an Omaha Walmart in March of 2021. NBC News reported that Jackson alleges there was a false pretense of shoplifting that was a violation of his civil rights based on his race and color. Walmart responded that the suit is almost identical to a lawsuit he filed against our company in 2021 that was dismissed. The earlier suit said he suffered emotional stress and pain from the handcuffs. And finally, 71-year-old João Pimenta da Silva of Minas Gerais, Brazil, repeatedly dreamed that gold lay deep under his home, the New York Post reported. To that end, over a year ago, he began digging a hole in his kitchen floor that ended up being 130 feet deep and about 35 inches in diameter. But on January 4th, Pimenta's dreams died when he lost his balance and plunged to his death at the bottom of the cavity. Ooh! His neighbor, Arnaldo da Silva, tried to discourage the project, but Pimenta was convinced his dream would come true. In the fall, he suffered head injuries and broken bones. Ooh! And all that for gold? My goodness. Surely he would have got some sense and maybe got some hired help to help him dig the hole. But that's what greed will do to you, folks, unfortunately. All right. Let's look at what holiday is today. We all know that it is Martin Luther King Day, as always. It's mostly every January 15th, 16th, or 17th. But let's see if there's any other... So let's see. I don't know what a booch is. Okay. All right, we've got several of these, but I think the one we're going to tackle is National Bagel Day. Let's look at it. Come on. Pull it up there. Come on. Add to the stage. Here we go. National Bagel Day today. Look at that, folks. Nicely done.
Yeah, switch to H&R.
Oh.
Live with real. Last year.
Hey. I know what I gotta do. Got to put the ads on, the ad blocker on this one. Okay, reload it. National Bagel Day. There we go. Okay, National Bagel Day is January 15th. Bagels have a history that is richer than your favorite cream cheese spread, and these rounds of dough can be found just about anywhere. Breakfast joints, coffee shops, supermarkets, or even your kitchen pantry. In fact, 2018 saw more than 354 million bagels sold. Bagels have a long and highly documented history that travels from the Jewish families of Poland in the 1600s to wrapped up in parchment paper in your hands today. And unlike many things created nearly 500 years ago, bagels are remarkably unchanged. Sure, cream cheeses and butters and flavors and toppings may have evolved over time, but bagel is a bagel. A bagel is a bagel. Bagels made the jump to America with a massive Polish-Jewish immigration in the 1800s that firmly entrenched itself in New York City, where it thrived. In fact, an entire union was created in the early 1900s called Bagel Bakers, Local 338, to support the growing immigrant-led industry. That also begat the bagel brunch, and that we still enjoy to this day with little to no changes. Lox, cream cheese, capers, tomatoes, and red onions. And while bagels were hugely popular in New York City, almost immediately they didn't make their way to the national scale until the mid-20th century, where automation and bread slicing, the coolest thing, made mass manufacturing much more efficient. And since then, bagels have taken off to include a variety of flours, toppings, dips, and smears, but still remain by and large exactly as they were in the 1600s. Here's the timeline. Starts in the 1300s. First bagel appears. The beginnings of the modern bagel can be traced to the Polish Aberwaznak, which is a thin boiled, then baked ring of dough. The 1610 New Baby, New Bagel. The first known written records about bagels appears in Krakow, Poland, which dictated that bagels should be gifted to women soon after childbirth. New York icon didn't get here till the 1900s. Over this century, the popularity of the bagel spread throughout the growing Eastern European and Jewish immigrant communities in New York City. In the 1950s, bagels become an American staple. They're sold in supermarkets across the nation and surpass the donut as an essential breakfast item. So, today, eat a bagel. I did. Pretty easy. Head to your local bakery and take a big old bite into a yummy, warm, crispy, doughy bagel with your favorite toppings. Bake one. Surprisingly simple and rather enjoyable. There's nothing that tastes or smells better than freshly baked bagels straight out of the oven. A great activity for you and your loved ones. And considering that the initial written context of bagels came as a traditional gift for pregnant women, this will go great at any maternity ward, or just give it to someone you know who lives bagels. Yep. Well, now here's the stats for the National Bagel Day. 54% like them fresh of Americans that eat fresh bagels. And while it may be convenient to stock up on store-bought, it's clear that we have a preferred palate for freshly baked bagels. And 77% make them a meal. Bagels are eaten as the main dish for whichever meal that may be. These hearty rings of fresh dough are sustainable enough too. And 75% like them toasty. Yep, of bagel eaters prefer theirs warmed up and will gladly buy a fresh, hot one over anything cold. With nearly 90% of users putting cream cheese, butter, or some kind of topping on it, it's clear that the contrast between hot and cold is the desired method of bagel consumption. And why we're gonna do some activities. Yeah, you're gonna have a bagel at every meal. That's a lot of points. Take this day as an opportunity to appreciate the versatility of the bagel and feel free to use it as an excuse to try as many flavors as you like. And what office, classroom, or group of friends doesn't love bagels? Well, scoop out your local bagel shop for exclusive National Bagel Day deals and spring for a dozen delicious bagels to share. And everyone has their favorite bagel place, so maybe it's time to figure out which one is the best. Maybe each place has its own specialty bagel, so be adventurous and try it out. And why we love this day? Well, have you ever walked into a bagel shop and noticed all the different flavors available? From bagels weaved with cinnamon raisin swirl to the classic everything bagel, there is always a variety to satisfy your sweet or savory cravings. And many of us have had bagels for breakfast, but how about as a deli sandwich or maybe a pizza bagel? I've had those before too. The chewy and dense texture makes bagels a perfect vehicle for toppings, spreads, and anything else delicious you can think of. And you can find bagels at grocery stores, coffee shops, and even gas stations. You can eat them toasted or just plain. Either way, they're still a delicious and easy choice when you're on the go. And there you have it, friends. National Bagel Day. We had some other ones too. We'll make mention real quick here. It was, let's see. There was another one too. National Fresh Squeezed Juice Day. If you like freshly squeezed orange juice. And National Strawberry Ice Cream Day too. So a lot going on this day with foods other than just Martin Luther King Day. And we'll look at those, of course, you know, what day is today every day. So check those other ones out for some fantastic, great recipes and some delicious juices and strawberry ice cream to go with your bagel. You never know. You might want to try a dessert bagel one of these days. A cinnamon raisin bagel. Yum, yum. All right. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we'll look at how Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday became a federal holiday, and then why desegregation didn't put an end to racism in America. We won't get to the 11 facts about that, but we'll have these two articles when we come back on DMS 3000 News Live right after this.
Introducing the world of Rainbow Bright Starlight and Lucky so separately.
I'm Rainbow Bright, and I have the power of the rainbow to make everybody happy. I'm Lucky, and the stuff makes me happy. With my purple star and my horse Starlight, wow, I can make you happy and bright.
Starlight, Rainbow Bright, and Lucky are each sold separately. The world of Rainbow Bright is new by Mattel.
Savages attacking! Once we take this missile silo, we'll rule the world, General Warhawk. We need Rambo! Rambo, for some freedom.
Here's a present, Haddock. Wow! Rambo, behind you! Warhawk! Rambo, my sword. Look out! You again!
Rambo, for some freedom.
Get Rambo and General Warhawk with their battle action weapons, each sold separately.
You're attacking the Statue of Liberty. Ghostbusters are at the scene.
Look out, Ray. It's slime time.
Each sold separately.
We've been slimed. Let's clean up, Lewis. Now we're fighting clean. Take this, you squirt. Slimed again. See? Oh, yeah. It's Nasty Neck. And so Bomb to the rescue. Bombs away. Gotcha.
And the Ghostbusters have saved the day.
Paratime Cannon.
It's new command patrol, flagship of Max Steel's RoboForce. Max Steel, the leader, and Sentinel, the protector, sold separately.
Police robot liftoff. RoboForce station. We'll use the secret chamber for laying a trap. The mass patroller, attack.
The RoboForce command patroller comes with secret chambers and wheel-mounted pretend lasers. Robot sold separately, new from ID. The Ronald McDonald House.
You can roll to your pal. It's chocolate covered caramel. Roll to your chums.
It's chewy and it's chocolate and it's lots of fun.
Rolo, chewy caramel and real milk chocolate all rolled together. Rolo.
You can roll to your friend.
It's chocolate covered caramel from end to end. Rub-a-dub-doggy, soft little doggy, it can take a bath with you. Taking a bath can be lots of fun, caught two in the bath, caught it is much fun and fun. Rub-a-dub-doggy, soft pretty doggy. Rub-a-dub-doggy, I love you.
Rub-a-Dub-Doggy is watertight, soap-proof, and comes complete with a sponge bone.
Everyone knows that drinking and driving don't mix, but the time to decide who'll drink and who'll drive is before anyone has a drink. Choose a designated driver while you still have a choice.
You can pretend. Stealing powers where she's at. A very wild but pretty cat. That's Catra. And here's lovely Bronsta, true blue friend of She-Ra. Dolls each sold separately. But Catra shows her catty side. Bronsta can breathe her inside. The fate of the world's in the hands of these beautiful girls. Princess of power. Catra and Frosta dolls each sold separately. She-Ra doll also sold separately. New from Mattel.
This is Princess Adora, sister of He-Man, and her gentle horse. Each sold separately. You can pretend. She's lovely as a flower, but she has a secret power. The magic sword in one stroke, and she's got the strength of a tower. She-Ra, Princess of Power. The fate of the world's in the hands of one beautiful girl. Princess of Power. She-Ra doll Princess of Power comes with everything you see here. Swiftwind horse sold separately. New from Mattel.
Well, it is Martin Luther King's birthday today, and although King's birthday officially became a federal holiday in 1983, it was more than a decade in the making. Yep. So Brooke Nelson is going to explain this in her article that she wrote just about 6 days ago, and give you the lowdown of all of that. Ask nearly anyone off the street, and odds are they will know a thing or two about Martin Luther King Jr. Born on January 15, 1929 in Atlanta, the celebrated civil rights leader is honored each year on the third Monday of January. But despite its namesake's fame, few people know how or why Martin Luther King Jr. Day became an official part of the American calendar. Believe it or not, the campaign to make Martin Luther King's birthday an annual holiday began only 4 days after King was assassinated in 1968. Yet it took more than a decade and millions of Americans joining the effort before Congress finally approved it. This is the inspiring story of how Martin Luther King Jr. Day became a federal holiday. So don't miss these rarely seen pictures of Martin Luther King Jr. before his death and his most inspiring quotes. Martin Luther King Jr. Day will be observed on Monday, January 16th, 2023. Here are the holiday observances for the next few years, which today is January 15th. Next year, on 2025, it'll be on the 20th, and then in 2026, it'll be on Monday, January 19th. Since Martin Luther King Jr. Day is observed on the third Monday of January, the date changes each year. It won't fall on King's actual birthday until 2024, which is actually today. Yep. So why do we honor Martin Luther King Jr. on his birthday? Well, after King's assassination, many communities paid tribute to the civil rights leader by naming public buildings, streets, and other landmarks after him. Congress, for its part, considered creating a federal holiday in King's name as a way to both commemorate his legacy and promote the civil rights movement that he had championed. Representative John Conyers, a Democrat from Michigan, introduced a bill for the holiday just 4 days after King was assassinated. And at the time, however, there were several conspiracy theories surrounding Martin Luther King Jr.'s death. Everyone from King's widow, Coretta Scott King, to singer Stevie Wonder joined the effort to create a holiday honoring the civil rights leader. Stevie Wonder funded a lobbying office and even released a song about King to raise awareness for the cause. Groups such as the Congressional Black Caucus and the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, or the SCLC, worked to gather millions of signatures on a petition for the holiday's creation. Local and national campaigns quickly gained momentum, and in 1983, more than 500,000 people rallied at the Lincoln Memorial in favor of the holiday. Public support for a holiday in King's name was overwhelming, but it was up to Congress and the president to pass legislation to make the holiday official. Without enough lawmakers in favor of the holiday, Conyers' bill was never brought to the floor for a vote. And the effort stalled for more than a decade, but during that time, two things were happening that boosted its support. The number of African Americans elected to Congress was growing, and millions of Americans were joining the effort. Check out this inspiring stories of ordinary people who changed history. In the years that followed King's assassination, many states, including Illinois, Massachusetts, and Connecticut, passed laws to celebrate King's birthday as a state holiday. Congress first voted to create a national holiday in 1979, but the legislation failed by 5 votes in the House. Following a heated debate in the Senate, the bill was finally approved by Congress and signed into law by President Ronald Reagan in 1983. And even then, Martin Luther King Jr. Day was met with strong resistance from some states. It wasn't until after 2000 that all 50 states recognized King's birthday as a federal holiday. Martin Luther King Jr. Day is the only federal holiday designated as a national day of service, called a day on, not a day off. Its goal is to encourage Americans to volunteer in their communities as well as consider a career in public service. The day also serves as a chance to reflect on King's life and legacy, and many people honor him by working to raise awareness for issues that he supported, such as civil rights and nonviolence. So, how do some people traditionally observe Martin Luther King Jr. Day? Well, a wide variety of commemorative festivities take place nationwide on Martin Luther King Jr. Day, including parades, tree planting ceremonies, and free admission to national parks. For many Americans, the holiday is also a call to action, offering an opportunity to carry out the civil rights leaders' teachings in their day-to-day lives. Some people hand out pamphlets and posters about King's teachings, while others volunteer at local nonprofits. Great article. And now that you've got a little bit of a history lesson about why it became a federal holiday after all of this, and we celebrate it, and of course, when we were kids growing up, we had the 3-day weekend, considering that the fact that the school kids just got back from their Christmas vacation just about a week ago, it's a great observance to this day, and we should take it not for granted. Never take this holiday for granted. This holiday not only gives freedom for the African Americans and for the blacks of all people, but for all who are free. So it's not just about religion, race, creed, or color. It's about being a human being, an American human being for that matter. And I think Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. would be rolling in his grave to see how much hatred is going on now in our country many, many years after his passing. It's unfortunate that we still have hatred out there. Do yourself a favor. Stand strong for what you believe in. That's the important thing. When we come back, we'll look at our final article of the day of why desegregation didn't put an end to racism, and then we'll finish up with the motivation of the day. All of this and more when we come back on DMS 3000 News right after this.
Let's play Simon! Simon says, come chase after me. Repeat my life sequentially. Just do what I do. Simon says, I'll give you the razz if you don't keep up with all my jazz. So don't do what I don't do. Simon says, go longer and faster. And when you do, you'll be the master. You did do what I did do. Simon, the Do What I Do computer game from MB Electronics. Do.
Dragon Blaster.
One more paralyzing Dragon Blast, and what? Freeze, Fisto!
Dragon Blaster, Skeletor, Fisto, Roboto, and He-Man figures, each sold separately.
Roboto, attack! Your Dragon Blaster can't stop the most powerful robot in the universe. Oh yeah! Freeze, Roboto! I said freeze!
Dragon Blaster, Skeletor, new from the Masters of the Universe collection. Other action figures, each sold separately. From Mattel.
Papa Smurf! Gargamel's stolen all of our food, and I'm so hungry I could eat a house! I'll make something Smurfalicious. What's Smurfy magic? Look! New Smurf pasta from Chef Boyardee! It's Smurfy good for you. There's even Papa Smurf special sauce! Wow! Smurfy shape, too!
You rats! Out-Smurfed again!
Thank goodness for Chef Boyardee! It's Smurfy good!
Is Snake Mountain ready to take on man?
Snake Mountain, Battle Armor, He-Man, and Skeletor each sold separately. You put the mountain together. Batteries not included.
Is your serpent ready to strike? Come, He-Man. Come to Snake Mountain. You dare.
Snake Mountain with Echo Microphone, new from the Masters of the Universe collection. Action figures each sold separately. From Mattel.
Presenting Ronald McDonald in No Snow.
To McDonald's we'll go.
I don't see any snow.
Papa, don't start to frown. What goes up must come down.
It's snowing.
To McDonald's we'll go. What a great time up here. Snow and sleigh rides are here. Winter fun once again. Together with friends. McDonald's. Ronald and you. Beef yet?
But look!
Spell says S-A-Y-S. That is correct.
You said Speak and Spell could help me spell better.
It's from Texas Instruments.
I'm running a lot, really.
Yes, but you don't want to look like this in the morning, do you? Now go to sleep, please.
Texas Instruments Speak and Spell makes learning what it should be. Fun.
I've been looking all over for this.
His spaceship destroyed by Decepticon fire. Springer, the toughest of the Autobot triple changers, crash lands on planet Junkion.
Hurry! Operators are standing by. Now welcome wagon-headed strangers.
Transformers. Eon Rekka transforms from motorcycle to robot. And Triple Changer Springer transforms from car to helicopter to robot.
The Transformers, each sold separately from Hasbro.
Bite into a Starburst and hold on to your taste buds. It's the wildest orange. Strawberry. Lemon. And wildest cherry taste. Starburst. It's a burst of refreshing fruit flavor. Naturally and artificially flavored.
Paul Robert wrote this article on why desegregation didn't put an end to racism in America. And on the Civil Rights Trail, what we needed was equality, but what we got was integration. This article was written about 3 years ago, but it sums up a lot. Walking down the concrete slope of the National Lynching Memorial, a series of rusted iron columns rise up from the ground around me. Each is marked with a name, a place, and a date. And as I proceed, hundreds of them rise higher until they're suspended from the ceiling. Like the haunting, strange fruit Billie Holiday sang of the oven in the late 1930s, black bodies swinging in the southern breeze, strange fruit hanging from the poplar trees. On the grass around this morbid passageway, I see more rusted columns, lined up like coffins awaiting burial. This disturbing artwork commemorates the roughly 6,400 victims of lynchings, blacks killed in the United States by white mobs between 1865 and 1870. The visitors around me, white and black, are uncomfortably silent. Officially known as the National Memorial for Peace and Justice, it was founded by the Equal Justice Initiative in Montgomery, Alabama, and opened in 2018. It is one of the main sites of the Civil Rights Trail, a national network of historic civil rights markers, monuments, and museums located mostly in the southern states. It's June 2019, and I've traveled from Holland to visit a few and to learn. This is the first day of my road trip through Alabama, Tennessee, and Mississippi, where I'll also be meeting with veterans of the 1960s protests and campaigns. Before my trip, I had been surprised to hear about this network of sites. After all, the South is best known to most outsiders for conservative social policies and accusations of suppressing minorities' voting rights. I had traveled through the region before and enjoyed the hospitality, but when I met locals, I had shied away from subjects like religion and politics. And now the region was promoting its new civil rights trail to visitors. I thought it was a good reason to return, albeit armed with healthy skepticism. But that skepticism was the first thing I lost. It's no coincidence that a national lynching memorial would be placed in Montgomery. The Alabama capital has played a central role in the darkest history of the United States. In the 19th century, it was a major hub for the American trade in humans. It was also the first capital of the Confederate States when they broke away from the Union in 1861, starting the American Civil War. And in the 1950s and 60s, it was a center of resistance against systematic racial segregation. Around Montgomery's center, traces of the past are everywhere. I passed the residence of the first Confederate president, Jefferson Davis, the Baptist church on Dexter Avenue, where Martin Luther King Jr. preached, and the place where Rosa Parks was arrested in 1955 because she refused to get up for a white passenger. Also in the city's center is the Legacy Museum, founded by the Equal Justice Initiative, the not-for-profit organization behind the lynching memorial. It fights mass incarceration, which overwhelmingly affects people of color, and which the organization directly links to the legacy of slavery. The Legacy Museum is in a former warehouse for slaves. Its display opens with life-sized black and white holograms of enslaved people. They start to talk when you pass the 19th century holding cells the holograms are projected into. Their stories are based on true ones recorded in the early 20th century by former slaves. In one corner, a woman's hologram quietly sings a spiritual song, and from another cell come children's voices crying, Mama, Mama, it is chilling. The museum's next section covers the transatlantic slave trade, executed by men from England, Spain, France, Portugal, and yes, my native Holland, between the 17th and 19th centuries. It is a dark period that we Europeans so often regard as American history rather than our own. Near the exit are large photos from the civil rights movement of the 1960s. A photo of white teenagers angrily shouting at a black student entering their school suddenly makes me realize that the discomfort I felt since I visited the lynching memorial is turning to shame. This is not a scene from distant history. This is my generation, which makes me, a white person, representative of the guilty party. This is the first time I've ever been acutely aware of my race. If these places are impacting me, I wonder how they must affect African Americans. So I ask an elderly lady standing near me. It makes me want to cry. And she says with a sad smile as her eyes tear up, she tells me that she grew up here in the 1960s and remembers the abuse. She's lived in the U.S. North for the past 40 years and is back for the first time on vacation. She's happy to see that institutions like this exist now and that the South is moving forward. Then, before she walks away, she says, "Thank you for asking." Those words are strangely comforting, and I forgot to ask her name. The next morning, I met Diane Harris in Selma, Alabama, 80 kilometers west of Montgomery. Harris was 15 in March of 1965 when hundreds of black citizens crossed the local Edmund Pettus Bridge, intending to march to Montgomery to demand the right to vote. They were blocked at the other side of the bridge by the sheriff, his deputies, and a posse of white farmers and off-duty state troopers on horseback. In a violent crackdown on the marchers, 17 were hospitalized, and photos of Bloody Sunday appeared in newspapers and magazines around the world. Harris, who sought shelter in a church with her brother, now works as a tour guide in Selma, and she includes a stop at the Selma Interpretive Center located near the bridge. She tells me it worries her that the younger generation of African American kids know so little about what their grandparents went through. It was partly the fault of the school boards that once kept it out of the curriculum, she says, though Alabama's civil rights education has notably improved since Harris's day as a teacher. But it's also our own fault. We didn't teach them either. We wanted to forget about those days, but it's the reason, she says, why she is telling the story now. To kids on her educational outreach projects, to her tour guide audiences, and to all who wish to hear. I leave Selma and drive northwest around 5 hours to Memphis, Tennessee. This is where Martin Luther King Jr. was killed in 1968. A shot from across the street when he was standing on the balcony of the Lorraine Motel, now a civil rights museum. And when I visit, I see an African-American family taking pictures, cheerfully posing, thumbs up, under the balcony where King died. It reminds me of a similar kind of disconnect outside Anne Frank house in my hometown of Amsterdam. My trip takes me south now toward Jackson. Rather than the direct 3-hour route, I take a wider westerly swing through the Mississippi Delta, the flat region between the Mississippi and the Yazoo rivers, the birthplace of the blues, the music of the slaves who toiled here for hundreds of years. The Delta is warm and humid. The young cotton plants stand 20 centimeters high in the endless, treeless fields, now worked with massive machines. I pass the Mississippi State Penitentiary, known as Parchman Farm, the notorious prison farm covering some 120 square kilometers along Highway 49. I see prison barracks to the right, road signs warn that slowing down or stopping is not allowed here for any reason. And back in the early 60s, more than 300 activists called Freedom Riders were held here. I'll be meeting one of them, Hezekiah Watkins, at the end of my trip. You cannot blame today's kids for not being interested, says Flonzy Brown Wright when I met her in the small memorial center she has set up in a former shop in Canton, a sleepy town of 12,000, some 40 kilometers from Jackson. This 78-year-old activist was the first African-American election commissioner in Mississippi in 1968. Now, the African-American population of Mississippi has a higher local representation than anywhere in the country, she says, but they have no power. Gerrymandering, the targeted redrawing of election districts, ensures that the state is still controlled by conservative white men, she says. Schools for black children are still inferior, she says, and the curriculum is decided by the state. In a history book that most Mississippi school districts use, only 5 of 100 pages are devoted to civil rights struggles, according to a report published in 2017. What is needed, says Brown Wright, is a new generation of strong black leaders, and while she supports groups like Black Lives Matter, the Now Global Network campaign that was originally started to protest state-sanctioned violence against black people, ideally, she says, this new generation of leaders would include people like Martin Luther King Jr. and the kind of people who worked with and supported him. And not the version of King, she says, that's celebrated today, a pacifist dreamer, but the brilliant activist and strategist he actually was. Still, she is optimistic. I have to be. The slaves never lost hope. They survived on hope. Flonzy Brown Wright takes me to meet Glenn Cotton, grandson of the owner of a so-called shotgun house that served as a safe house for the Freedom Riders in the early 60s. The Freedom Riders were local black activists and white volunteers from the North who tried to force desegregation of the Greyhound bus system by refusing to abide by rules that separated seating by race. Cotton has turned the house into a small private museum dedicated to the Freedom Riders and the history of the local black community. He shows me photos of famous activists who came here, including King and Medgar Evers, the secretary of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, or the NAACP, who was shot outside his Jackson home in 1963. And then Cotton shows me a portrait of a group of well-dressed businessmen. That was the Black Business Association, he explains. There's no such thing anymore. We were better off before desegregation, he continues. Seeing the surprise on my face, he describes the lively black business community that existed here until the 1960s, when the black middle class owned shops, cinemas, restaurants, and funeral parlors, and when black doctors and lawyers served the community, and when desegregation came and African Americans gained the right to be served in the better equipped white establishments, the black business class suffered and many shops went bankrupt. But at least, adds Cotton, race relations here in the South are better than they are in the North. Now I am really surprised, but he insists, and another African-American visitor who has walked in on our conversation agrees. I'll hear more about this on my next and final stop, Jackson. At the state's capital's splendid new Civil Rights Museum, I met 71-year-old Hezekiah Heck Watkins. In 1961, at age 13, he went with a friend to the Greyhound bus station in Jackson to see the Freedom Riders arrive, and not knowing they'd been arrested before the bus got there. His friend suddenly pushed him through the door into the station, where police mistook him for a demonstrator. He was locked up on death row at Parchman Farm. After 5 days, he was finally released. We talked some 2 hours about his youth in the segregated 1950s and 60s. Watkins grew up on a street that separated a white and a black neighborhood. Little kids from both sides of the street played together, but when we turned 6, we went to different schools. And when we turned 12, we had to call them Mr., and they called us boy. In 1955, 14-year-old Emmett Till had been tortured and lynched in Mississippi for allegedly whistling at a white woman, but young Watkins was shielded from such horrors by his mother. All he knew was that he had to lower his eyes when a white person approached, and he couldn't play on the sidewalk. My mother warned me never to look at a white woman's butt or eyes, he said with a smile, but I had no idea why. And after Heck's accidental arrest, his Naviette was later replaced with a clear view of the harsh racial injustice of the South. It turned him into an activist. Eventually, his mother let him join the Freedom Riders. It led to another 108 arrests, making him the most arrested activist in the history of the civil rights movement. Other people counted that, not me, he says. In 1965, the struggle seemed to be ending in victory. First, the Voting Rights Act was passed by the Johnson administration, guaranteeing African Americans in the South the right to vote, and then Civil Rights Act officially ended segregation. It did not, however, end racism or undo the wealth gap, says Watkins. What we needed was equality, but what we got was integration. Still, Watkins also confirms what Glenn Cotton told me. Race relations are better in the South than in the North. Trying to make sense of this, I called Charles Chuck Ross, professor of history and African American studies at the University of Mississippi. Ross grew up in Ohio and now works in the South, so he should know from experience. In the South, he says, racism is overt. If you see a guy in a pickup truck with a rebel flag on it, you know he'll have an issue with black people. In the North, it is more covert. You may develop the relationship with someone, then be confronted with racism when you don't expect it, and you don't have the luxury to relax. The South has been forced to deal with its dark past. There has been a more profound change here than in some areas in the North, he says. This echoes what others have shared with me on this journey, that the South is moving forward by dealing with the past through activism, memorials, and museums, while the North pretends nothing was ever wrong. On a long, sleepless flight home, I ponder the parallels with the country I'm returning to where open displays of racism in soccer stadiums are loudly condemned, but where any discussion of our colonial past, including the slave trade, is muted because it undermines our idealized image of the Dutch golden age of the 17th century. It's also a place where covert racism translates into situations like lesser job and housing opportunities for people of color. It's something I've always known on an intellectual level, but somehow that moment of acute awareness of my own race that I experienced in the Montgomery Museum has given me a new level of understanding. This journey is not like other trips I've been on. This one will not be over when I land. And for more on this important issue, see our guide to the fight against racism and read these 30 powerful quotes that speak volumes in the fight against racism. Paul Robert is a writer, editor, photographer, and translator, and the editor-in-chief of Reader's Digest Dutch Edition. He will be founded online. He founded online travels since Amsterdam your way. And there you have it, friends. A fantastic look at the article in play, which to this day might be very controversial, as they say. Well, that is the look at our articles for today. And we leave you now, of course, with the motivation of the day. So let's take a look at that real quick. Send you off with a great motivation and a little important message toward the end of this day. So let's take a look right now. Here we are. Daily Motivator. Today's motivation for Monday, January 15th, 2024. Oh, I have to almost. Okay. Reload it. Okay, here is your motivation of the day. Whoops. Okay. And this one is called Living Your Values. Your purposeful living has brought you far. Keep up the good work. Your discipline, effort, and commitment have created much value. Continue to offer the best of yourself. Your integrity and honesty provide fertile ground for meaningful achievement. And do all you can to keep those achievements coming. Your curiosity and sense of wonder throw off creative sparks in all directions. Again and again, enable and allow yourself to be genuinely amazed. Sometimes it feels that the progress is slow, the challenge is oppressively overwhelming, but to be sure you're getting somewhere good, living the values you know to be true. Your courage has made a difference, and you have a whole lot more. Fantastic, Ralph Marston. Thank you very much for that great motivation of the day. Well, that's going to do it for us today on the show. I hope that you enjoyed this special edition on Martin Luther King Day. I know I have. Next week on our program, we'll be talking to one of our friends who is going to be co-hosting the David 3000 Awards at the end of the year, coming up in February. We'll have him on the program talking about what you got to do, get the deadlines in for voting. This show and most of the shows on the David 3000 Network are up for nominations, including myself. I cannot vote for myself, so I need you to vote for DMS 3000 News and me on the ballots as well, and I'll vote for you in return. You tell me where to go, and I'll be there for you. We'll help each other out, as they say. In the meantime, remember, be honest, be real, and keep it simple, stupid kids. Have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow for episode 104. Till then, good night.
Don't forget to subscribe to the Gary Dawson Network for more great content like this one.